Welcome to the Brooklyn Podcast with yours truly, Anthony Puccio, my co-host, Colin Helwig, and a special guest. We know him as Bob. You guys know him as Net Income or NetsDaily. Bob, 21st season covering the Nets. 21st
Yes,
season.
yes. I was just looking at these series of magnets I have on my on my wall back here. And I have the 21-22 schedule magnet, and I said, I bet I could get some money for that. People, people wanting to be nostalgic, but 21 seasons, and this one may be one of the more interesting ones.
Yeah, you were at Media Day and you wrote an article kind of saying it's a different type of Media Day. Can you elaborate on that? Good, bad, ugly?
Yeah, I mean, it was different. I mean, the two media days or two events that I compared it to. One was 2019, which was the first time we saw KD in a Nets uniform, and I remember it vividly. Him walking in, and the snapping of pictures and the video, and the place was full with media. They had to cordon off part of the practice court at HSS to accommodate everyone. And then the one going back to 2013, which wasn't Media Day, but it was the day that the Nets introduced Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry. Andrei Kirilenko was supposed to be there, but he was still in Saint-Tropez on the French Riviera. And Prokhorov flew in and made a surprise appearance, and Yes covered it live. And this time, there were no cameras other than the Nets' own cameras. There was only, a smattering of reporters. Back then, you had 5, 6 newspapers covering those events. And at Media Day, there were 2, plus, 3 bloggers up front, and, and me and a couple of others. So it was very different. And I think that, as I said, in that story, no NBA team is irrelevant, particularly to its fans. But among the 30 teams right now, you'd have to say that the Nets are probably the most irrelevant because they plan on remaining flexible, which some of us might call tanking, but they will not. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to fans. I'm not sure it's going to be interesting to anyone else.
I think that's a good way of putting it, because I do think there's more excitement. At least, we're obviously involved in the team. I feel more excited because, 5 rookies, there's upside.
Yeah, 5. Well, 6 if you count Fanbo, and I assume, my belief is that he's going to wind up with that, third two-way, but there's no guarantee of that. But it makes a lot of sense for a number of reasons. But yeah, so that would be 6 out of the 18, a third of the team. And what is it? 8 players are 22 or younger. I think that's right. So a significant part of the roster, and it may very well be the youngest NBA team ever. If not, it's going to be close, and it's certainly the youngest team. It's certainly the youngest team that's been that's in the NBA this year, and I think by a substantial margin.
Yeah,
and and they not only seem happy with that. They seem proud of it. I've talked to a number of, what you might call Nets insiders over the last couple of weeks, and they'll bring it up. We're going to be the youngest team in the league this year, and again, it's a big positive for them.
Colin?
No, I was just saying. I agree. It's as much as we all would have liked to see Keon and Tyrese. Maybe Tyrese will be back this year. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit. But the idea of the first round picks have more of an upside, have a ceiling than guys who are brought on who are 2-3 years into the league, bats around the G like a lot of those guys did. So I think that it's very much it's easier to look at those guys. And now this year, it's all right. these guys could be something special. Odds are you didn't know if anyone on the roster was going to be something special last year. So that's I think where the intrigue comes from.
Yeah, I think that's where the excitement comes from. And one thing that I was told, was almost like a warning that I got from somebody on the team was the best player this year of the rookies may not be the best player overall over the next 2, 3, 4 seasons. And I think that that's going to be something to watch. And, the other thing is point guards or combo guards, of which they have a legion, always take more time to develop. Rookie wings develop the fastest historically.
Yeah.
And then it's point guards and big men who take a while. So in this case, you have 4 playmakers that they took, plus Drake Powell. So you could see development rates a little different as the season goes on. And then the other thing, of course, is these players are, 3 of them are international players. If you look at Yegor Yeoman, I'm thinking I'm pronouncing that right. He's played the last 3 years. He's played in Brooklyn, Salt Lake City, and Madrid. You look at Ben Saraf or Sheriff. I'm still getting this taken care of. Last 3 years, he played in Israel, Munich, and Brooklyn. So you've got these guys who are not just acclimating to the NBA, they're acclimating to the United States, they're acclimating to Brooklyn. That's going to take some time. And I think that, there's going to have to be a level of patience here that that we're really not, that familiar with. And I expect that, assuming all sorts of, good fortune, that by the end of the season, you'll have a sense of how these guys are, but maybe not, as I was told. The best player in the lot may not be the best player this year.
Yeah, in my my essay for Media Day, Bob, I had written that in year 1 they found their coach. In year 1 of this rebuild, and I commend them for that. What do they need to do in year 2? Like just show something, right?
Well, I think right now they're auditioning for stars. They're auditioning for free agents. The free agent class will be stronger this season. And, they also will still have throughout this season, through the trade deadline, a monopoly on cap space. The word is they're going to go right up to the floor, and they're going to take like $15 million into the season. And $15 million at the deadline should be valuable. But I think the key thing is they want prospective free agents or players who may not be happy somewhere else to look at the Nets and look at Jordy and say, this is a good coach. This is a guy I want to work with. And players talk, and it's well known now that he's a very good coach, and he's going to improve this year too. And the other thing, of course, is New York. And then the thing that doesn't get talked about a lot is, as an agent said to me, every NBA team says that they are player centric, quote unquote. He said, but there's only about 4 of them who actually are. And he said the Nets were one of them. And, it's a lot of simple things in terms of, getting meals delivered, the catered meals delivered, getting, arranging for helicopters,
Right.
to take to the end of at the end of a season. Tim Capstraw told me that 2 years ago, when they lost to Philly, he said that there were a number of helicopters.
Yeah.
And
I remember that. Yeah.
to fly them to where they needed to go. I
They
mean,
picked up D'Lo and all Karras and all those guys.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I remember.
it's those sorts of things. And I've gotten bits and pieces of that sort of thing, and it's impressive. They have a network of orthopedists, ready around the country. I was told that Ben Simmons woke up, or well, not woke up, but he he couldn't feel his foot one night, and he called, and he called his agent, and his agent called the Nets, and by 1:30 in the morning, there was an orthopedist at his door. I mean, those sorts of things are again worthy of discussion, and those sorts of things are also the things that are shared by players,
Yeah,
around the league, because not every team, as that source said to me, is player centric. I mean, he told me there was one team that monitored how much, which players were taking free soda from the vending machine. Stuff like that. Is it versus what I described is, it's night and day, and players notice that. But the key thing is Jordy. I mean, I would put Jordy right at the top, and I would put New York just beneath him. But everybody talks about New York, but inside they talk about Jordy.
yeah, it's interesting. Without uh, the differences in this media day, you see similarities with new players like Michael Porter Jr., who's been around, especially with Denver, a champion, and he came in and he made comments immediately about how they do things in Brooklyn, right? Like we've been saying, MPJ put the mic down, but in this case, he was speaking some good
Yes,
things about the Nets organization. And he said, like, I'm not dissing Denver. They took care of us great, but over here it's different.
yeah. And the other thing he noted when he walked into the practice facility for the first time was that there were two courts. And in Denver at the practice facility, they had one. I mean, there's more practice courts across the street
Yeah.
from Barclays Center at the Brooklyn Basketball Training Center than there was in the Denver
Right.
Training Center. So again, that gets noticed, and I think that is a valuable thing that a lot of fans don't recognize. Look, there are issues. I mean, they had the big three. It failed. It was monumental. It was, it was unprecedented. And they still have to recover from that. But they also have an owner who's willing to spend, and an owner I might note, who in the last in the last week has had 2 days where his net worth has increased by 500 million and 250 million dollars.
Solid.
They're fine in that regard, and they're willing to pay. I mean, what Sean has said is, I have an owner who's willing to pay when it's needed. And he also has an owner that is committed to this level of flexibility. And he's willing to be patient, and patience among owners is also very, very valuable.
And
So
he'll have an opportunity to showcase it in China next week.
yeah, I mean, that's I wrote about how they're promoting Fanbo yesterday, and how the Nets Weibo account, which has more followers in China and among Chinese Americans than the Nets have on Twitter and Instagram combined. It's going to be a big deal. We don't know specifically how big it's going to be, because I'm sure that Adam Silver or Mark Tatum, whoever is there, is going to make an announcement. I mean, the NBA is back in China for the first time since 2019, since that fiasco. And there'll be something. beyond the games that's going to attract attention. And they are rolling out all sorts of things for that game. They have all these former stars who are going to be there. Stefan Marbury will be there, who is a legend in China. Kevin Garnett will be there. Darren Williams will be there. Tracy McGrady will be there. And
did you say Darren Williams?
Darren Williams, the Darren Williams,
wait.
will be in China.
Not for MMA content, for basketball. Wow.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
That's the biggest breaking news we're going to get on this podcast. I haven't seen Darren Williams in a long time. I mean, since he retired, he went off the grid, and I think he hosts a very successful MMA podcast, to his credit. Like, when he was done with Brooklyn and Dallas, he was done with basketball, and God bless him. But it's nice to hear his name again. He's going to be in China.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it's going to be covered. I mean, none of the beat writers from the Nets will be there. Yes, will not be there. So we're going to have to rely on NBA coverage and probably AP. But yeah, I mean, Cy is going to be able to showcase, as you said, his team, and then that's become the first team to go to China 3 times. They did it once with New Jersey and now twice with Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get too lost into this. I do want to ask Colin about practice in the park, Bob, but I do want to ask you one last question on this topic of China, Joe Tsai, and just like having this polarizing owner like him. Do you feel that in a couple of years, Joe Tsai will be credited with mending the bridge between the NBA and China again?
Oh yeah, I think. I mean, look, he's already done that in mostly undisclosed ways. We know, Tsai has a lot of ties with the Chinese business community and with the government. And I've noted this, which is that he has become one of the more powerful NBA owners for a variety of reasons. He's in New York. He owns the Liberty, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that he is going to be, in next week, he is going to be a big player. And he deserves to be a big player. The question mark, of course, is whether geopolitics is going to interfere, because you never know. But certainly, I think that you're going to see that. And we interviewed him a couple of months ago on all his sports holdings. And one of the things that his sports holding is, he's a big holder of shares in Fanatics. I mean, it's all over the lot, and it's international. So again, in undisclosed ways, he has been a big part of the NBA's return to China. And if you want me to stay, I can stay. I'll just call I'll let the doctor know.
I did want to ask Colin just about his thoughts from me practice in the park. First time that Colin and I met actually was practice in the park in 2022, I believe, Colin.
First time I met Colin was in practice in the park last year.
Check that out. the reunion is right here.
The guy hangs around the practices, it's a place you can find him.
They might need to throw him on the court, but before that, we had met, and it was a special day. Colin, I remember you were very excited. I think you just started with NetsDaily. During those days, Kevin Durant was there, Kyrie was there, Joey Badass was even there performing. Like, there was just this immaculate vibe at Brooklyn Bridge and Park, practice in the park iteration. And of course, I think during that time things were still uncertain, but irregardless, there were superstars in the park. What do you have to take away? How did you feel that the Brooklyn, not just Brooklyn Nets fans, but Brooklyn audience as a whole, particularly it being quite literally in a playground park. What were the vibes like? How did they perceive a lot of the players, uh, especially as maybe the average basketball fan might not know who Yegor Demon is yet or Nolan Trayor. So I'm just curious to see and hear how Nets fans and Brooklyn fans really perceive these guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely kind of like a kid-centric event, which is, like how it should be. I think in the story I wrote at the end of it, I was like, everyone's concentrated on the youth right now. Like the team naturally with all these young guys, but also it seemed very much like a kid catered to event. And kind of the way those things come together, I was very kind of like blown away at the end of it, the time that a lot of these guys took to sign autographs and go up to kids and take pictures with them. And I'm not saying they didn't do it the last 2 years, like, that was definitely, like, kinda like the whole, like, vibe of the thing, but there was a lot of it, and there were a lot of people who were excited to see these rooks. I mean, we haven't really seen them all, you know what I mean? And a lot of them played overseas or, were, like, hurt at different times, so, like, it was just kinda cool to, like, see them all there. They had Kuji just about everywhere that they could put it, so that was cool too. But yeah, but my big takeaway was really just seeing like Yegor, Drake, Claxton, like, but mainly like the rookie guys because they're new to the Brooklyn community. But it seemed to me like they seem to really take it seriously. This opportunity to connect with a new fan base and a young fan base, a fan base that is not to sound corny, but kind of grow up with them. You know what I mean? So it's
And
good for
that's the
that.
plan. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the plan. Generational fandom. I mean, they do it with everything. It's practice in the park, and it's the opening of the training center in Modell's. And I forget that it's something like 40,000 New York City school kids. And maybe that number is not correct, but went through clinics and camps at New York City public schools sponsored by the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, Prokhorov came in and said we will turn Knicks fans into Nets fans. Well, that never works. So the idea is get them while they're young. I mean, literally. I mean, they make no bones about this. 8 to 10-year-olds, let them grow up with the Nets, cater to them, make sure that wherever there's an opportunity, to seize it. I mean, one of the more interesting parts of that is, Jean-Baptiste Basquiat, or Jean-Michel Basquiat, excuse me. They sponsored. He was a big part a couple of years ago of the Nets promotions, his art. And what they did after that was the Nets sponsored a curriculum in Brooklyn schools, um, to teach Basquiat's art, and then had a competition um, for kids who were artists, based on their interpretations of Basquiat, and had a gallery of the best at Barclays Center. And again, this was something they did in conjunction with the city board of education. So they don't miss an opportunity in this regard. And if there's one thing that we know about them, and on the business side, is they're marketing, 24/7, 365, and in a lot of cases, with some real creativity.
yeah.
Colin, what player was received most well or most recognizable among the fans?
There was a difference between the cheers that came out for Cam Thomas compared to everyone else. Pretty sizable, honestly.
Which makes sense considering half the lineup hasn't played an NBA game yet.
Yeah.
And of course, credit to Cam Thomas too. But, I mean, these guys, am I wrong? They're 19, 20 years old. Uh, but
Yeah, and as you said, he thrills us when you wrote about him during the summer. Yeah, and he is the most thrilling player. And Claxton, Claxton when he's healthy is similar. You know, I think that the chances of him staying beyond this season are obviously minimal. I mean, that it doesn't. History tells you that. I think there's only been one. I think there's only been one player,
Spencer Hawes.
right, who none of us really remember that well.
Sixer.
Yeah, who took the qualifying offer and then at the end of the season signed a long-term contract with his team. And the other thing is there just hasn't been that many people or players who've taken the qualifying offer. I think the last one, was Miles Bridges, and that was a totally different situation. He had his legal issues, but we shall see. And nobody is. What I did find interesting was that neither side dismissed the possibility of him coming back, at least publicly. And I think that's a positive. But the question, it's he is going to want to maximize his potential. And he understands, I'm told, that he has to change his perception in the NBA. And that's not just about defense and playmaking, it's also about his personality. I mean, the Zach Lowe retort was not helpful. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that he has to adjust to change the perception. But again, I think it's unlikely that that we're going to see him beyond April.
Problem for another day, but certainly a headline and storyline that's going to hang over our heads throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
I do want to shift it quick before we hop off, Bob. Are there any of the rookies or any names coming out of training camp that you're hearing especially? I know you noted Tyrese Martin on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's a non-guaranteed, so I'd love to hear.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everybody is raving about Ben Saraf, and everyone is raving about the potential of Drake Powell because of his athleticism. But of course, you haven't seen Yegor yet, so you don't know. I was told that they're very impressed with Traore's speed, and we knew going into the draft that he had a reputation as being the fastest, the quickest player in the draft. But I'm told even subsequent to that, during the summer and in camp, his speed is, as one source told me, elite even for the NBA, not just for his draft class. So, I don't. I think that it's going to be a while before we see Yegor. We haven't heard much about Danny Wolf. And then the other question to me is Dariq Whitehead. This is it for him. This is his big year. And they have to make a decision by October 31st whether to extend him through 26-27. And I've seen no indication that that's going to be an easy decision. He has improved his body, quote unquote, as I've been told, and as Jordy said. The question, of course, has his explosiveness returned after 3-foot surgeries, 3-footer leg surgeries? To his credit, he has become a pretty established three-point shooter. He shot 40% from three, both in the NBA in his short stint last year and in the G League. So I mean, he's done that. He's established himself as a three-point shooter, and that can sustain a career. But again, it's a numbers crunch. But going back to your question, Tyrese Martin, I was told it was volunteered to me, and when I talked to somebody last week, that he had a very good summer. Now, he's older, he's almost 27. But, one of the things that the Nets did in the first rebuild under Marks was find diamonds in the rough. Yeah. Whether it was Spencer Dinwiddie or whether it was Joe Harris, or they found rehab situations as they did with D'Lo. We haven't seen that happen yet. Not to the level of Dinwiddie and Harris. But, that's something to be on the lookout because there are players like Dinwiddie and Harris who are out there, and who, given the opportunity, become, if not stars, then people who got a lot wealthier than they were when they joined a team. So, is Tyrese Martin that guy? Is Drew Timmy that guy? And Kobe Buffkin, who they like. Yeah. I don't know. But they can create a lot of shots, but I'm not sure they can make a lot of shots. That's the big question.
Well, they might not be too great in Brooklyn this year, but they might be forming a super team on Long Island.
Yeah.
With all the names and all the faces, and even Cam Thomas said it when they asked him about being an old head, and he said, I've seen so many faces and so many young faces at that. I was thinking about the developmental program and how serious Sean Marks has to be looking at Long Island right now, the coaching staff, the front office, and prioritizing the Ben Sharrots of the world, or even Danny Wolf, right? Like Drew Timmy last year was incredible on Long Island.
And he was doing nothing for the Sacramento affiliate, nothing. And they traded for him, and he averaged 25 points a game, became a credible 3-point shooter, and was named second team All G League. And I'm interested in something that Colin saw, noticed at Media Day, which was, what's Kenny Lofton Jr. doing at Media Day? Sitting on the row, huh?
Practice in the park, right, Colin?
Yeah, I'm sorry. In the park, right? Yeah. What's he doing there? Are they gonna bring him in? Because he's a very solid G League player. And they have upgraded. Scott Mitchell, who covers Long Island for us, spoke to Mufon Udofia, who said the players that they're bringing in now, the players that they've traded for in the last couple of months, and there's at least 5 of them. Those guys are veterans, and they brought in the best playmaker in the G League last year, a guy who averaged 10 assists a game. And that's absolutely key for the development of the young players. So they're catering to the Flatbush Five. And I was also told, but this is now a couple of weeks old, and I don't know if it's changed, that the player who's most likely to spend the most time in Long Island is Powell. And part of that had to do with his injury, and part of that had to do with, there's a logjam at his position, and you want to give him minutes. So I think you'll see him. And they open November 7th. So we'll see pretty early on. And the other thing is Fanbo is going to be out there, and I would not be surprised, knowing again the Nets marketing team, that you will start to see ads for the Long Island Nets in Chinese language newspapers in New York. And it should be fun. I haven't been out there for a game in ages. I think I was out there for the opening. Yeah, with you, right? But I might have to get a full tank of gas here in New Jersey and drive out there.
You got a place to stay. We had a lot of fun with Archie Goodwin last time.
Yeah, and Prince eBay.
That's right. That's right.
Prince eBay. Right.
All right, we got to get net income to Long Island for a little while.
Right.
Watch some winning basketball.
They better. But watch the development. One of the other things out there, by the way, that fans might not know, is Jorge Gutierrez, who is a big fan favorite, is an assistant coach out there now, and an important, assistant coach. So you'll. There's a lot of connections out there, and they rave about Mufan Udofia, the head coach, and his development skills. And again, that was proven, as you mentioned. Drew Timmy's career was going nowhere, despite his incredible college credentials, and they figured out a way to make him valuable. Changed the perception of him. So I anticipate that we're going to see a lot of games. We may not see all 5 of them out there at once, but I'll bet we'll see 2 or 3 out there. For amounts of time.
And NetsDaily will have all of the coverage.
All of it.
All of it. You hear that, Scott Mitchell? If you're listening. We're looking at you. Bob, we heard your alarm going off. We know you got to go. If you could answer a couple of rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Biggest surprise this season?
Ooh. Nick Claxton.
Win total?
I've been mulling this. I think probably around the same level as last year, 26-30 wins.
Do you think that their most viral moment comes on or off the basketball court this season?
That's a good one.
Hey, maybe I'm alluding to Coogee jerseys,
Well, there's a number of possibilities there. It's a close call, but I'll go with on the court.
Good. Colin?
Wishfully on the court, we'll say.
Good. Right. Let's hope so, fellas.
Yeah.
To another hopefully fun and exciting season ahead. Bob, Net Income, NetsDaily. It's always a pleasure to have you on. It's always a pleasure to speak. If it's life, if it's Nets basketball, if it's quite literally anything in the world.
I'm always ready to pontificate.
Well, we might need you to come on for a pod not about the Nets, about Bob Windrem.
Yeah.
The legend, you mean?
Yeah. Colin had written The Godfather, but I don't know. You are the Godfather, but
I'm 80 years old.
So, Godfather, before we kiss your ring and ask for a favor, is there anything else you wanna let the Nets fans know, or our audience on NetsDaily, whatever it might be?
I think that overall they have done well over the last year or so. I hear complaints that they didn't get as much as fans anticipated from the cap space, but they got 2 unprotected first round picks. They got 3 second round picks. They got a very good basketball player in Michael Porter Jr., who is only 27, and 2 guys, in Highsmith for as long as he's around, and Mann, who could provide them with more. I think overall they've done a lot of smart things, and whether one of the most underrated moves of the summer was hiring AC Law, who was the chief scout for the Oklahoma City Thunder, who seems to have a pretty good track record. And he is now the chief scout or the director of player personnel, as they call it, for the Nets. It's not the level of hiring a head coach, but that was an impressive hire. So, I'm optimistic that things can move along, but at the same time, as you noted, Pooch, this is the year that they make a turn.
Yeah.
This is the year that they can sell themselves. And if it doesn't work, then you really have to, consider all sorts of things.
Yeah. Until that day, thanks again, Bob. Colin,
Sure.
any last words on your end?
Nah, appreciate you hopping on, Bob, as well. Oh, always good to chop it up with you. And
Sure.
yeah, like you said, hopefully fun season on the way.
Yeah. I'll be at Saturday's game. So the fact that I'm going there is Brian Florentine will be covering it for us. And I said, Brian, I said, the protest could be the big story coming out of there because this is an Israeli team. And Brian's response was, my kind of party. So I'm looking forward to Saturday night.
Thanks, Bob, and looking forward to Brian's coverage.
Yep.
If anybody wants to reach us, we'll be on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at The Brooklyn Pod, or you can email us with any concerns, feedback, questions. If you see Bob looking good at Barclays Center on Saturday, shoot us an email at thebrooklynpod@gmail.com.
Just don't take please.
Don't do that, Bob said.
Thank
you, everybody, for your support. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you soon.
Thank you.